Good morning, everybody. My name is Matthew Negron. I am the Morristown City Center Director for IIDA, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware. Today, your host is going to be Perry, and then we're also going to have four great panelists. So we have Janine, Jessica, Joy, and Wendy. So they'll all be giving you great answers to some great questions that you guys all submitted today. If you guys have any questions or during the entire coffee chat, feel free to enter it in the chat box or the Q&A. We will be monitoring it throughout the course of the talk. So any questions are more than welcome. If you want them to expand on anything, feel free to use the chat box as well, and we'll be checking it as we go along. But for this morning, I'm going to be handing it over to your moderator, Perry, and he will give himself a little introduction, and I will let everyone give themselves a little intro as well. Thank you, Perry. Over to you.
Hi, I'm Perry Cirigliano in Patcraft, New Jersey, and I've been with Patcraft for 31 years, and I'm happy to be here today with this great group of interior design, corporate interior design and facilities experts.
Hi, I'm Janine Intonato. I'm a design director at the Morristown Gensler office. I've been in the industry for over 20 years and with Gensler for the last 10. And I'm happy to be here.
Hi, I'm Joy Young. I'm from Johnson & Johnson. I was the workplace strategy lead, but until last week I changed over and I'm now the FM sub-regional lead for the East region. And prior to J&J, worked in the Morristown office of Gensler. So, and my passion for design has stayed the same, just in a different capacity. So I'm glad to be here. Thank you for the invite.
I am Jessica Vuocolo with HDR. I've been in the industry a little over 20 years as well, and I've been with HDR for 4 years now and work mostly in healthcare projects, but you know.
Hi, my name is Wendy Ceron. I work at HLW out of our Madison, New Jersey office, or I guess now I work from home, but usually. I've been at the company for over 5 years and we do mainly corporate design.
Well, I guess let's get started. The subject of today's coffee talk is a design of the past, present, and future. So we're going to ask you to think about some things, you know, that what did design look like, what's going on now, and what's it going to look like in the future. So the first question is going to be, which present trends do you foresee remaining in the future? And have you seen positive trends come out within the past 12 months? And I guess we can make this a little bit, but if you want to start off, let's start off with Wendy.
Of course. I think there are a lot of great trends that have come over the last 12 months. You know, one of them being the better work-life balance that everybody has been looking for. But I do think the best things that come out of this is people's interest for equity and wellness. This is something that, you know, equity has almost become a hot word in the last 12 months, in the last year. And it's great to see how people have turned this social conscious on and are interested in seeing that. So I think in the workplace itself, there's a lot of traits that have come and that are going to stay, but the more important one being wellness, the interest in it, and equity.
I can add to that. I agree with Wendy. Definitely wellness. We're seeing a lot of outdoor spaces now increasingly being part of the workplace environment, as well as, you know, seeing opening up facades and retrofitting rooftops to provide that added work setting. Also, in agreement with that equitable experience, it's very important now to bring the remote and the on-site worker together for a seamless collaboration.
Yeah, and I'll add to that too. I think a lot of the current design trends are going to be towards biophilic design, relationship to nature, you know, kind of building on that, adding exterior spaces and getting out there and enjoying nature and what really, you know, we've been missing for the past year.
we've taken a look at our buildings to do exactly what you're talking about, creating more collaborative spaces, because we want people to eventually, to come together and create these environments and create facilities that are a draw for our employees. And the other thing, which is not, design related, but very relevant, is the stigma of working from home has gone away. And, there was resistance to doing certain things, I would even say, with related to design, because it's like, no, my people would never do that. I would never do that. We don't need to do this. So I think that as a result of this change in mindset with regards to having the ability to work from home and changing what the workplace will potentially look like, this is going to create, maybe new environments that are more hospitality feeling when people, get back into the office.
It's becoming a new era of choice and autonomy.
Yeah.
Which is funny. I think as designers, we've been trying to push this, right? To have this collaboration areas and more like amenities, and people are like, no, we don't need this. We need workstations. And we were trying, forever, the hot desking system, people working from home, reducing their footprint. And it's almost being, Nick's or the client is like, we're not that type of company. And this, like Joy said, it really pushed everybody to say, we can work from home. We can reduce our footprint of our offices and, create more amenities to entice people to come here. So I think the entire mindset of that, it's something that has come out of this, and it's great. It's great to see that, because it's exciting.
Yeah. And in the workplace in healthcare, the trend is now to provide amenity spaces and Zen areas for staff to go to. It's extremely important in healthcare, especially nowadays with the reduced staffing and the stress and all the stuff of the past year.
So we have a question from Kaniza Debar, and she was asking if, because of these, wellness and outdoor trends, do you see an increase in productivity?
Productivity is always something difficult to actually measure. But what I think it offers is a place of respite, a place to recharge, a place to take a step back so that you can bring yourself back to your work in a fresher way and in a better way. So I know for me, having, sitting on calls and then going for that walk for 20 minutes and getting that fresh air and coming back, I feel rejuvenated. I feel more productive. And I've heard that from others. Do I have a statistic on it? No. But from what I've seen and heard from other colleagues and just in general, and what we're encouraging from our health team within our company is to, take those breaks, because it will help you in the long run. And it's, better for you mentally, emotionally, and physically.
Right. And just the natural ventilation is important. Having that.
And it's the options, right? Having options for what you want to work, is not everybody works in the same way. Not everybody has the same personality. So there might be people that need some type of spaces. There is people that might need, outdoor spaces, and that helps them concentrate. People might not like this noise from outside, might not want it. But people thrive when they're given options of where they can work. So I think that is something that will help with the productivity. Just options.
Okay, so the next question is really going to make you think a little bit. Are there specific trends that you foresee no longer existing in the future? And maybe tell us a little bit why. And also, is there a trend that you'd like to see really go away? Something that you really say, I hope this is no longer present in the future.
Plexiglass at reception desks.
The one-way stickers.
Yes.
Yes.
On the floor. Yeah.
I think for the near now, densification, I'm taking a hiatus. People really want to have more space around them.
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right, Janine. The more thoughtfully designed spaces will have visual cues that will kind of guide you without putting a physical, barrier or you know,
know.
sticker on the floor to say that this is only one way.
Oh, you're on mute.
Okay.
There you go.
Anything, yeah, I was gonna say, anything, anything else anybody could think of? Or should we go on to the next question? And the next question, are there any past designs that you see returning to the marketplace, like maybe higher partitions and cubicles or, you know, anything like that?
I'll say, so in our portfolio of spaces, we have some spaces that are traditional, but we've been moving to activity-based working for about 10 years now. And honestly, the activity-based working has, and having the flexibility and that variety of space, it has made it much easier to manage our facilities. And, you can, instead of trying to figure out if someone has to come in and where is their office and where are they going and, what's the path that they're going to go to get, if they have to do something versus having saying, here's a neighborhood that's dedicated, you come in, we up the cleaning, we up everything so that it's like, there's more flexibility in that. So, I even think previously there was this false sense of security in terms of like high panels meant privacy. There was no privacy. Like I could still hear you, maybe we couldn't see you on the screen, but so, I think that we were at an advantage in some of our spaces where we have the activity-based working and had the flexibility to allow people to come in and, we modified where people could sit, but we still had flexibility and we had the access for everyone to have access to enclosed spaces and open spaces instead of you just being dedicated to one spot.
Yeah, because every client has their individual needs to support their lines of business or their work style. So having that variety is important, and flexibility.
I think gathering spaces will be an important trend that will come back in the future as well. Places for people to start to socially reconnect and sort of get back to normal.
I think it'll be super important. I agree.
So that's a good point about, social interaction. Is that something that you're all seeing that everybody's missing?
I think it's going to be the main drive to go back to the office, especially in the workplace. At the beginning of, the pandemic, I'm not allowed to say that word. We saw everybody, they were excited, working from home, dreams finally came true for a lot of people. And little by little, we started people seeing like missing that human interaction, the adult time, because they would only or mainly be with kids and their husband or wife at home. So I think the social interaction is what we as humans crave. And we never realized our coworkers were so special for us, because it's something that's definitely going to bring us back to the workplace.
So you think it's partially from the social aspect, and also what about the collaborative aspect of, designing for that collaboration in the future coming back? Or
what we're finding is those cultural touch points are just difficult to do digitally. So it's so important for the culture and the collaboration to be able to come together and connect in person.
Absolutely. And even the mentoring, we have so many people that I feel like mentoring, it's something that it comes so natural that you cannot schedule a Teams meeting, right, to mentor somebody. So those are things that the workplace is needed for. You need to be there in person, so it can be this natural, almost communication.
The one thing that has changed for us with talking about communication is we never had cameras on before. Like we had that technology, but no way. And now, it's nice that we do turn the cameras on now, but I still agree. I miss that, I hear people saying they miss that interaction, and it's the walk down the hall where you run into someone and you get the download of the weekend and you chit chat and you hear, what's going on. Like that's all gone. And I hear from lots of people that that's what's missing. And there, might be the next new idea that gets spurned as you're walking in the hallway with someone else. It's more difficult to do.
Well, that's a perfect segue too into this next question, which is what is the future of cafes and lunch areas in offices and even in higher education?
I won't talk.
I was going to say, I think it's going to become even more important. As designers, I believe we've been trying to focus these amenities areas to be a central point for collaboration, for gathering, like Joy said, just to talk and catch up. And because we are craving this social interaction and we're thinking most companies will probably have a hybrid system where you work from home and the office. So the days that you go to the office will be used to, either collaborate, innovate with other coworkers. So I think areas of gathering will be highly necessary and a focal point of design. But in terms of how they will work, for a while will probably change. Instead of having, food displayed, you might have to pick up or order before you go, pick up just prepackaged food, touchless beverage machines, things that are minimal on how you interact with them, but the space itself is going to be essential.
I feel like also when we look at our cafeterias as we've been designing some projects for the future, making sure that those spaces do not go dormant off hours. So the look of those areas are to draw people in to have those meetings, doing individual focus work, small group work. So having access to Wi-Fi and electrical outlets. So as we've been looking at projects, it's like, how do we keep that buzz in those spaces all the time and make those an additional draw for people to come together is really important.
Yeah, technology is going to be super important in all these spaces.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to have to, provide you the flexibility to work and do the work that you can do on your desk anywhere in the office.
Okay, so do you envision building circulation to be forever changed?
In terms of how you experience the space, or in terms of the MEP system?
I think
I thought both.
just generally speaking, the circulation of the just.
I think the difference is it's going to be about employee choice and the workplace having multiple maybe entry points, because that will enable or define why the person is coming into the building and for a reason. Is it to meet? Is it to be more focused and have individual work? So I think multiple entry points, seeing that happening.
Okay, and what about even the the air circulation and the movement of people throughout the building and some other things like that?
I think it's just that natural ventilation. I'm definitely not an expert on MEP and systems, but we're definitely hearing about that natural ventilation. So access to outdoor space is important.
Okay.
Right.
Now,
Making the HVAC systems more with better filtration and upping the air change in a space is going to be important. Coming from a healthcare background, probably everyone felt like the hospitals were the worst place to be in the pandemic, but essentially they have the best air in the building of any place that you could be. So I guess taking a look at that as well.
Okay, and now we have our last question, and this is probably one of the bigger questions, a little bit different because this is talking about a career in interior design for the future. What do you see? Where do you see, students and professionals? Where do they need to focus? Where are opportunities? What are some inspirations? And where do you see this going for the future?
Well, I think interior design is a strong career. It's becoming more and more integrated into the design and planning of architectural spaces. And I think being involved early to be able to bring that innate design element into the planning of a space, that addresses, protects, and responds to human needs, which is essentially what interior design focuses on.
Yeah, and I think inclusive design, designing for community, all races, gender, abilities, I think that's important for students learning, building their skill set on 3D visualization is so important. I feel like that's a big opportunity.
I agree, and I had to say, in terms of the future of design, as a workplace designer, when everybody started working from home and everybody was liking the whole working from home, I was like, did I pick the wrong field within design? Or is like workplace going to be slightly obsolete in the future? But thankfully, people want to go back. And I think we're just going to have to re-envision what workplace is. So for me, I think that the future in workplace, especially our corporate design, it's very exciting because it's going to give us a little bit more of leeway of all the ideas that we had been easier almost to sell to the client because of what we've gone through. And in terms of where we should look for inspiration, I think it's in humans, because we are designing for people like us. So when we're designing, almost put yourself in those shoes and be like, what would you like? Would you like to be sitting 100 meters from a window? Or would you like to be, have access to the outdoors? Or would you like to sit in a specific area? Like, all these things are almost things that you can answer yourself if you were designing for yourself and thinking about you when you design. So I think that's the most important thing, and where we should look for inspiration, especially as designers or as the design community, is the experience and how we humans, live it, because it's what we do most of our life, sadly.
I mean, there's a huge impact that design makes on the lives of everyone that walks through a space. And now we have, what has happened is going to change the way people move through space. That's just what happens when when, I know we're not supposed to say the word, but I start talking about it. But, we've gone through this pandemic, and as a result, it's turning around lots of things in our lives, including our spaces, how we move through them. And I don't remember who said it, but it was talking about like touchless, and but touchless is great for universal design. So just, looking holistically at all of the populations that we serve as designers, and making them more comfortable. Like, this is the opportunity to change. This is the opportunity to show the importance of good design. And it'll always be around, in my opinion, because when you walk into a bad space and you can feel the difference, and you don't necessarily know why, but it's definitely important.
Yeah, to that point is how you are going to attract talent, right? Because we see all these offices developing into these spaces that look like Starbucks. Even Chase now look like Starbucks. That it's what is going to bring the future potential into your workplace, and it's what's going to make people want to be in your office. So yes, designing in spaces that people want to be in and that are not dreadful, that almost make you feel as comfortable as you feel at home. It's going to be so essential.
Well, we have a few questions. So one of them comes from Lois Cesarano, and she wants to know, how is it going to be affected? How is design going to be affected, whether it's in a rural setting or in a suburban office setting?
Sorry, I missed the question. I was reading a comment. That was very funny.
Yeah, thoughts about the design in the inner cities as opposed to more rural areas or suburban areas. Or do you see any difference in how you would approach that?
I mean, I don't think so. Go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying, like, if you think holistically, basically in the density of a population and where they're going, you know, there's definitely different things to think about when you're going into the city. Where is it, you know, public transportation, access, how are people getting to the space? What are the amenities that are around that facility? You know, is it a hub of activity that will draw people versus if you go rural and it's in the middle of nowhere, then you have to think about what am I going to do here to draw people, to make people want to come here. So maybe that the aspects of those, the urban spaces need to come out to the rural to create a really like a community within that building where you have people coming. So there are I think that there's definitely different considerations, how they're getting there, what is their, you know, the travel to work look like, and how do you, when they arrive in the building, what is that entry sequence when they come in? And so there are definitely different considerations in my mind.
And I guess also
Okay.
controlling, not controlling, but figuring out the entry sequence into the building. If there is going to be, you know, security or checking to make sure that, you know, especially in the near future, as people start to go back to the office before the herd immunity is reached, making sure that people are, you know, checking in, making sure that, you know, you feel healthy and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Okay, so here's another question. Okay, how do you see inclusion, embracing racial, cultural, gender, non-gendered diversity being considered in the future workplace? Ideas on, and it goes on a little longer, but it's ideas on layout, signage, company culture, etc. And there have been so many pushes for redefining inclusion during the past year, and advocacy designs feel like it really may soon be for all. So I guess to break it down, how do you see inclusion, embracing racial, culture, and gender and non-gender being considered in the future?
I think it's not just design. I think it's something that comes from within the company leadership and the structure itself. You know, I would like to say that when we design with an inclusivity with everybody in mind. You know, so far there's a lot of places that have only like male and female bathrooms, for example, and those are things that we can tackle. But the deeper way to really affect this is through leadership and how the organization as itself carries it. You know, a push from the employees, and we as employees, we can make such a big impact just by requesting or asking the right questions. I wouldn't say this is an impact that design itself can make, but it's almost us as individuals and how we push and learning to push those boundaries with leadership. And we've seen a lot of that this past year, and it's been incredible just to see the company's responses and to see what companies out there are vocal about this and are not afraid to speak to any inequality or social injustice.
I would say as we look towards the future of design, what we've started to do is leverage our employee resource groups, because we have, groups called Open and Out, and for African American leadership, African Americans, women, Asian American, Hispanic, all walks of life. And we have those groups to go to say, what's important and how do we incorporate that. So that's an effort that's going to begin. We have groups that have, on the spectrum, and just so it's like, how do you reach out to your employees, understand what's important to them? Because sometimes what's important at a very high level, in the end may not be that. And the level of importance may vary. So, just recently, we have all gender restrooms, and there was signage that was going up that was like, every country was doing something different. we were able to have it. So what we ended up doing is taking some signage to the open and out group, and they were like, that's offensive, that's offensive, that's offensive. Let's work together to create something that works for everyone. And then that's what we deployed. So, within organizations, leveraging those groups so that you're not just making a decision based on it's very easy to make a decision based on your experience, but your experience is so different than everyone else's. So having that, or organizing it in a way to get a collective voice and really serving those people, the employees and, people in your spaces is really important.
Yeah, I think the use of pictograms is a lot more prevalent now, and making them as neutral as possible so it doesn't look like a figure wearing a dress or, a rectangular body that looks more masculine. Right. Yeah. So finding that sort of middle
the
ground.
Half woman, half man one was like, they were like, no,
no. Right. No, you're absolutely right. The focus groups and really bringing those, talking through design ideas is the best way, and to get a consensus from everybody from all walks of life and, all cultures and all genders.
And making it such that it's certain things it may be addressing a need for a specific group, but 9 times out of 10, I'm sure it would be great for all. And right. So making it so that anyone can use it and anyone benefits, and it's not like labeled like this is for this specifically.
Right.
It's
right.
That makes it even more fruitful.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so we have some more questions. That was from Alexandra Bonner, and now we have one from Blake Lewis. And Blake Lewis is asking, if working from home is going to be part of the future, what suggestions would you give to those individuals looking to be mindful of their workspace at the home office from a design standpoint?
We've been hearing about this office in a box. I don't know if anyone's heard of that. A lot of our tech clients are implementing that, bringing like the workplace home and the home to the workplace with tools and the types of furniture, even a backdrop. So, we're hearing a lot of those kind of office in a box tools.
Yeah, definitely ergonomic seating and, a proper desk, trying to set up something that is more comfortable to work in.
Okay, and here's a question from O'Brien B. Okay, and I don't know if I understand this question, and maybe you do, because it is asking, I've been hearing discussions about neurodiversity in the workplace. Has the topic influenced your design solution? So maybe for some of it, if you have heard of it, if you could tell us what it is and then tell us how it's influenced.
So yes, we've met with our ERG groups, and neurodiversity is, and I'm going to get this completely wrong, but more so the interaction of someone that they have in the space. But for instance, we have individuals on the spectrum that the noise and the distractions and everything around them, making it more comfortable for them so that they can work and be effective. So it's, and I don't want to misspeak, but there is a need for it. And yes, as part of our team looking at universal design, we have conversations with there's a group, an ERG for with differing abilities. And that's one thing that they've talked about. And how do we create sort of an area of respite for them? Or how do we position certain areas or certain workstations or in a certain way so that the distraction of people walking by or the noise levels are not distracting. So we do, we've started conversations with those teams on how do we make those spaces more amenable to someone.
Yeah, and like we talked, we really want, right, a workplace that it's more like home. It's just more comfortable. So what we're seeing, and it's a lot about technology, because technology is going to be one of the biggest drivers on the future of workplace. But we're seeing phones that can act almost like access keys, and that can have presets. So when you walk into a space, you recognize that it's you, and it might have settings like the lighting, the desk height, or also looking into POE lighting into buildings, just creating that more curated experience for the specific individuals could also help highly, because I love my rooms bright and well lit. Some people, this might give them a headache, or it might make them uncomfortable, and they want it to be dim, which that gives me a headache. But it's like the rooms, they shouldn't be treated equally. And granted, technology, it's something that is also costs a lot of money, but it can be curated to address the needs of the majority, or the people that need it. So I think technology is going to play a big part of this, and it's going to help to curate how you experience the space and how it's personalized for yourself. So hoping to see that.
Okay, does anybody else have any questions? Oh, I see one. Let me see if there's one more here. Okay. I don't see any more questions right now, but I have a question, because you had mentioned lighting, and I just wondered how is lighting going to change, and is lighting throughout? Do you have different lighting for different areas? Different coolness, different warmth. How do you address that in the future? Do you see any change there at all?
I mean, we're seeing a lot of POE lighting, right? That is not only about daylight savings and it changes as the sun goes up. There's a lot of more factors about the mood of the people and the space, how you experience it. I think there's going to be a deeper interest on how lighting affects. But if you start seeing at LEED and WELL, there's a lot of requirements now that call out for the lighting and the lighting levels for different spaces and how the people interact with it.
Yeah, and I think lighting that changes their warmth throughout the day is also a trend that we're seeing definitely in healthcare, workspaces, nurse stations. The light being cooler in the morning when you get up, and then starting to warm down a little bit in the evening to sort of keep your body with that natural biorhythm.
Okay. Anybody else? Does anybody else have any questions?
So I'm gonna jump back in momentarily.
I was just going to say, Matthew.
So I'm gonna jump back in. I did have one more question for the crowd. It's more based on our students throughout New Jersey. And how do you recommend them going after an internship, or even the ones that have recently graduated where they've been stuck in this virtual environment? And how have you seen new people get hired, internships get jobs? Because right now it is kind of internship season. And I'm sure there's a lot of students in our chapter that would love to, work at one of your great firms if possible.
So the IIDA is actually doing this great student mentorship program. And the person that I was paired with, she just graduated from Savannah College. And I think just being involved in activities like that, for the next month, I'm going to be mentoring, or we're going to be getting together for some mentoring. And that means that we most likely will make a connection. And if she's looking for an internship and she's interested, even though she might be in Atlanta, we, can use her help and possibly hire her as one of our interns, because right now location doesn't really matter. So I would say for students not to be shy of where they are located, reach out and see companies are willing to work with you now in a way that even if you are far, they might still be interested in hiring you. And I would say right now more than ever, and I know networking is not something that is just like super easy to put yourself out there, but events like, stay active in IIDA, stay active in any events that you see. LinkedIn has so many different opportunities, and reach out. sometimes it's okay to bother somebody, send an email. Sadly, I would say it's not the best time for, to have graduated from college. But everybody's used to via email or getting a phone call. Sometimes it's okay to pick up the call. And there's a lot of posts. Thankfully, the market is improving and we see a lot of companies hiring. So just be active on reaching out. It might not be as easy as it would be without what we're going through right now, but definitely there are opportunities out there, and stay active in different, organizations like this one.
Okay, well, I want to thank everybody for sharing your knowledge and some of your thoughts of the future. And Matthew, do you have anything?
No, thank you everybody for joining us today. This will be posted on YouTube as well, so you guys can all share this with your colleagues and your peers throughout the industry. And then we'll have our next coffee talk next Thursday, which will be hosted by Leslie from 3Form, and we'll have another great panelist as well. So we have 2 more left in our series. If you guys did sign up for today, the Eventbrite is the same link for the next 2 coffee talks. So please sign up and join us. Thank you to our great panelists. Thank you for volunteering some time this morning. And I know it's hard to take out some billable hours, but we really do appreciate it. And thank you, Perry, for moderating today's talk.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank you for having us.
Okay.
It's a pleasure.
Bye, guys.